It's a Thursday morning, the 12th day of April 2023, another day here on Set Rise and Shine Daily. My name is Janice Cobham. Thank you so much for being here with us this morning.
Good morning, Africa. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Akwa Ibom State. It's a beautiful Thursday morning to be alive. A great share, comment on our social media platforms, all of which you can find at spectrumtv.ng. We'd also have our phone lines displayed in the course of this program. Please feel free to call in, send us WhatsApp or text messages to make your contributions on the issues that will be raised on the floor of Rise and
Build up again across different states now in terms of the money crunch. So it's not a problem. It's not a matter of just queues building up or at the ATM machines, but queues are also gradually building up again. Even trying to get into the banking halls and do some financial transactions. Money is not in circulation, but I really do not know what seems to be the problem. Yeah, I know that the other day we were talking about the fact that POS operators, are trying to snuff Nigerians off their money because of greed. Some people are taking as much as 300 naira for a 5,000 naira withdrawal, and all of that. So I really do not understand what the problem seems to be. Is it that there's not enough cash in our banking vaults to be circulated to Nigerians? Remember that initially it was all tied to the votes buying and all of that, but the elections have gone. The elections have come and it has gone. So why don't we have enough cash in circulation? Is it still the central bank trying to make sure that the monies do not
and difficult place that we find ourselves as Nigerians? And I think if we would share a little bit of blame, I would take it to the NLC. It's bad when we come up with initiatives. For instance, when the NLC said they were going to go on a nationwide strike if money did not circulate and through the implementation of their request. But as we have seen in less than 2 weeks after it seemed like that whole issue had abated, we are back to square one. The difficulty is still there and is resurfacing again. We just wonder what the real issue is. It's been 7 months of difficulties for Nigerians. One would just expect that with freely so that people can go about their businesses as they want to. So I think it's, a blame that I will put on the NLC. But another question would be, even if the NLC to say they're going to go on strike if this, money is not circulated in the country.
more money
More money, yes. But the issue there is they did not see through. Yes, little of the money was brought back into the system, but we did not. It would have been okay. We are going to wait until you have made sure it has gone round plan. But here we are now. Is it that you're going to come again and give fresh bouts of threats and all of that? But the CBN is really doing wrong by Nigerians. They are absolutely doing wrong by Nigerians. And I don't know what kind of leaders we have that are not touched by the things that the people are going through. Don't even forget that in all of these weeks, e-transactions have continued to fail. People have raised alarm, of monies, and some are actually untraceable. My mom was trying to do her account statement, and she was like, I had a certain amount of money in my account, and I went to withdraw, only to hear, oh, that amount you want is not available, and she's wondering, when did I do that transaction not to have the money? So this is the new naira in circulation anymore. And we are wondering,
where did it go to all of a sudden?
Yes, right. Where did it go to all of a sudden?
Now this is the same new naira note that was forced on Nigeria.
Yes,
if you
and
don't
we were
have
given
the
30
new
days
naira
to
note,
adjust.
why don't we see them in circulation anymore?
Yeah.
We are all having and using the old naira denomination of 500, 1,000, and even the 200 naira. So it really calls for concern and action to be taken.
Your lawmakers, that's why your policy makers look at the state of things in Nigeria. what is currently really affecting Nigerians. Let's talk about it. Invite the CBN governor and all the other allies that he has in that particular office. Let them explain and put strategies on ground, to work out the proceeding. It's not just all this last minute walking through bills and turning them into law. Also see how Nigerians are faring right now, and let's have this discussion at plenary, and let a solution be foisted so that we can move forward as a country. It's really disheartening. 133 million people living below poverty line, and you're making it worse for them to not have access to
their own money.
Yes, it's something else.
Yeah, it is. Now, quick one now, still talking about the National Assembly, right? Flash news. I remember also that there was a bill on the floor of the plenary trying to stop Nigerian doctors from exodusing out of the country until they have to spend 5 years giving back to a country which, according to the House of Assembly, have subsidized their trainings and giving them platforms to train and all of that. Now, the diaspora health workers have petitioned the National Assembly over that bill to stop Nigerian doctors.
To what extent?
Okay.
Petitions are one thing, and it looks like we are in a country where our leaders don't take serious petitions. Do they respond to these kinds of petitions? Because to a very large extent, the harm might have already been done. They might have already decided. We know that the bill has passed second reading, and you remember the number of but it's good to see that we are having even international organizations,
of course,
yes, respond to this issue. It will be worse if we did not have people trying to wade into the situation, and you just see maybe the bill will move faster. But now we can expect that there's going to be a snag in the wheel, and if the conversations are further pushed, maybe the bill will be thrown out.
But again, if you have to visit the public health facilities in the country and not travel out of the country for medical tourism and all of that, because I think it is very counterproductive for you to begin to push that Nigerian doctors should not leave the country because they need to give back to the country. Root causes of these problems that is making our Nigerian doctors to leave. I'm not also of the opinion that it is good for Nigerian doctors to leave, because it lets it makes the whole health sector depleted of even personnel that are supposed to be there, to treat the steaming people that will be going for health challenges and health concerns. Concern is that the federal government should try to see how they can put things together to make sure that the health facility is also good. So it's one thing to have good personnel on ground to treat people, is yet another thing to even have the facility to use in treating those people. So while you're pushing for bills not to allow doctors to go overseas, or NMA national chairman is even arguing, what is the the budget for the health sector? How has the budget been allocated and implemented and prosecuted as well, and all of that? We know that there's just a lot of corruption in the system, even in the health sector, in terms of facility, in terms of manpower, in terms of a lot of things, administration as well. So we have to check all of those things and make sure that we put them in places first before we even begin to drive the conversation. Is more like putting the cat before the horse.
And when we're even talking about a subsidized education, we're also looking at the fact that it's not everyone that went to federal schools. There are medical doctors in this country that went to private schools, and they pay through their nostrils to get medical education. Are you also going to force the hands of those ones that you did? Like we said the other day, it's just a matter of modern day enslavement. There needs to be free will. There's just, like you said, provide the working environment. These people are also clamoring. We do not have the working environment to adjudicate, our roles and get our work done. That should be looked into. Don't boycott the most important things and just put all your focus on the medical personnel when they are not the biggest part of the problem. When the budget is being put together, they are not allocated even up to that percentage. So we have these problems, which should be more pressing issues for the National Assembly to look into and try to say, okay, can we even start by giving them the full percentage that has been adjudicated to them, or all those kinds of conversations. Not talking about putting them in the country by force, but these are a lot of things happen.
In-season strike. Why was this kinds of conversations not held on the floor of the plenary?
He said he just sat and thought to himself.
Okay.
And this is a funny flash news that came. So I'd just like to take this one, because on the heel of all that is happening after the elections, we are seeing a lot of drama still coming out of the country as a result of the presidential election. Of course, this is Alaja Sinatu Ajikutu. She said the process of renouncing a Nigerian citizenship, faltering. What's the correlation? Why are you so aggrieved with the results of the election that you want to renounce the citizenship of a country? Matters are arising out of this particular presidential election. Is one that we have never experienced, actually.
Yeah, matters will definitely rise, because just like an election is more like would react in different ways, and I think Alaja is one of those that are reacting in her own special way. I don't know what she thinks about the man Bola Ahmed Tinubu, but that is left for her to tell Nigerians, and all of that. But again, renouncing her citizenship as a citizen of Nigeria.
Keep to her word, because she had mentioned before the elections that if Bola Tinubu won, she was actually
we've also seen Nigerians do different things at different times when presidents win elections. We saw the one that tracked from Lagos to
from Adamawa to Lagos.
Is it from Lagos to, I think,
Abuja,
when
President Buhari won.
President Muhammad Buhari won the election. So Nigerians react in different ways. We are not surprised at that.
We just think of the long-term, effect of some of these.
Okay, but I think that renouncing her citizenship is a little bit too far. Maybe she's a dual citizen. She's going to focus on.
She has what to lean on, actually.
Okay. Enough of the flash news this morning. Let's look at our major stories for the day. Of course, these are stories making the rounds, and I like this one in particular because it has to do with the feminine gender. Now, talking about leadership and power and tussle. 20 some tussles here and there onto the leadership, who becomes what and who doesn't become what. And so some few weeks ago we saw that Ojo Kalu has been the House of Representatives seems to also have its own fair share of tussle in terms of leadership. Now let's take a look at this. The tussle for the leadership of the 10th National Assembly continues. The first female lawmaker has joined in the race for the seat of the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Onoha was said to have declared her intention for the speakership race at a pro constituency in Imo State on the platform of the All Progressives Congress, APC. As lent by this, is the first female to openly declare a bid for the office of the Speaker. Now, Onoha, who was re-elected for a second term in the House, is said to be the second member from the South-East Joe Assembly, promises to be a watershed of some sort for Nigerians' fledgling democracy, adding that the dwindling number of women in parliament calls for deliberate action. She also submitted that Nigerian needs a nationalist and a dynamic team player to stem the tide of our dwindling economy and the much needed dividends to Nigerians, a service-driven leader who understands citizens' participation. She went further to send the gap and action that is a call for the leadership of the National Assembly. And she went further to say, I honorably call for my female contestant, my fellow contestants, I beg your pardon, to support me, a woman with competence, integrity, and full vision. No doubt our president-elect, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is a he for she who has always empowered women in all spheres of life, having picked a woman as his running mate as the governor of Lagos State. We just put a post to that there, but also gave a voice to this particular clip, and then we'll come right back into the conversation this morning.
This opportunity to call on my order and, as a mark of honor, step down to support this woman. I call on the male contestants to step down in the interest of peace and understanding. If Nigeria and our democracy has to advance. My candidature has to be pushed, and the support could come from my fellow contestants. This appeal I make passionately and with all sense of humility. As a mother, I will better have the ability to unite the house. The attributes of a woman is inclusiveness. A woman breathes life. A woman nurtures. At this time of our political history, we need a woman to transform us because we are at the transition to another level. Having a Miriam Onoha on the saddle will bring inclusivity and better management of the house. I have a good background of conflict resolution and peace building. That I will bring on the table through opportunity to call on my other co-contestants, my male contestants, to consider the love and the care Nigerian voters have shown to them, and as a mark of honor, step down to support this woman. I call on the male contestants to step down in the interest of peace to come from my fellow contestants. This appeal I make passionately and with all sense of humility. As a mother, I will better have the ability to unite the house. The attributes of a woman is inclusiveness. A woman breathes life. A woman nurtures. At this time of our
That's Miriam Onoha, member of the House of Representatives, who has joined the race for the speakership of the 10th House of Assembly. And I like the fact that she's bold enough to tell the men, look, as a mother and for inclusivity, you have to step down. I know there were just rows of laughter and all of that, there, but I like the audaciousness, of her even joining in this particular race. And at the last time we had a female speaker in the House of Reps was in 2007, and the person as the Speaker of the House of Reps at the time.
Well, this is a fresh, what I say is a fresh bout for the race of the speaker, in the National Assembly at this time. We've seen the men tussle, we've seen them announce it's their turn, we've seen groups maintaining that certain people are still in the race. It's good to see that a woman has, also risen up to the challenge. There's a myriad of things that this can benefit the country if she succeeds to become the Speaker of the House. It's just in looking at politics is a game of numbers. It's just for to look into strategy. What strategy do they have on ground? What support systems does she have that can actually push her, to become the Speaker of the House? Like she said, she can't become the Speaker of the House without the support of other members in the House. So if you look at her precedents as a member of the National Assembly in the years that she has been there, what kinds of contributions has she made to the policies that have, been churned out in the country, in her area of jurisdiction? How influential is she? You have to be able to see her ability to get the work done, because we are saying you want to preside over the rest of the people in the house. You must be able to get the work properly done. It goes beyond the audaciousness to come and say step down sitting, but it's a beautiful thing to see, because we have continued to have these conversations about women stepping up to the saddle. Oftentimes it's more like the women are just waiting for these political positions to come to them.
A la carte.
Yes, you are appointed essay to the essay to the essay. But it's good to see that a woman thinks she's capable and responsible enough to become the Speaker of the National House. So it's beautiful. And at this time, if we look into the likes of Ojus or Kalu have begun to receive endorsement from certain persons as the person that should go there, yes, for the Senate, right? At this time, having her to come out to, we can also begin to see people who believe in her cause give her that kind of support, also an endorsement, if you look into it, before we even go into all the conversation of, oh, she's from the southeast, oh, this person is from the northwest, and this it's the time for this zone. But it's a beautiful thing to see that even if we have a man presiding over the works of the Senate, and we have her in the House of Reps, I think also it's a beautiful blend, if I must say. It means that when the 8th Assembly is giving, you know, a particular view to certain amount of detailing that comes with the gender, and she's saying, I am here to offer that, you know, angle. She's bringing motherhood to the table.
Yeah, you know, I like the fact that when we talk about even leadership or power not being served a la carte, we talk about the whole lobbying thing. I think she was able to lobby, even with her statement.
Yes.
She was able to lobby a little bit, you know. And then I like the fact that she also made mention of the incoming president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as
she.
As a he honor her. The fact that she has come out. And we made mention of the fact that we've not had a female representation before as a speaker of the House of Reps.
Representative.
Now, what's her name now? Patricia Ita was in 2007. And she served, I think, from May to June or thereabouts. Just a few months after she was removed from that seat because of corruption charges and all of that. So I don't think that if we have somebody that is competent enough to be on that seat as a woman, it shouldn't be given to her. It should be given to her. We should consider that also. We are talking about equity. We're talking about equality and all of that. Now, I'm not trying to be a feminist here or doing gender equality. We are talking about 35% affirmative action and all of that. Well, we see governors come out to say, oh, they are women friendly. We see presidents come out to say they are women friendly. Now, if you are women friendly, let us begin to see that in the kinds of positions you give and make available to these women. Now, we've also talked about the fact that, there's tribes to say, look, let there be reserved for women. And that did not see the light of the day. So I think that if Miriam Onuoha comes out and is lobbying for her to become the Speaker of the House of Reps, look at her antecedents, look at her capacity, look at what she has done in time past, and see if she's capable enough, you know, to handle that position. Why not? But for that kind of leadership position.
Even at that, let's look at the rigors that women actually do go through on a daily in their lives, week in, week out. There is no amount of rigor that you put a woman through that she can't. You know, we just have this mental structuring that makes us think that women are weak, but they carry more burden than you care to even dissect. So the seat was contested for, she won the victory in court and was upheld in 2020. You know, some of those things. So she even is someone that has a backbone for the politics that she's talking about. And I think it would be beautiful to give her a chance if the House of Reps collectively believes in her race for that seat. And it's also important to see that at this time, the women in the House of Reps should also come together to amplify her voice in the race for the speakership of the House. It will not now be that you're going to have certain more room for more female representation in the House of Representatives, and even attempt to push it, you know, further to the Senate and all of that. But this is absolute fresh wind coming in. It's good to see the women stand up for, you know, those kinds of capacity. Like we say, if you don't push for it, no one is going to hand it down to you. And so we should even begin by saying thank you to Miriam and know some expectations and see the kind of difference we are going to have with all the men that have led. Now, I know we're having a conversation about the fact that Patricia Ete was once on that seat and didn't quite last. Let's not, you know, let Nigerians not be too quick to say what happened to the first woman who sat there. That was Patricia Ete. This other person is called Miriam Onuoha. Different destinies, different mindsets. Their backbone is different. And you know, so let's just expect different at this time, but it's great. And we know that this particular conversation will continue to evolve. Janice, I'm sure you expect that very soon the male folk will start responding, especially when she says honorably, you know, with all humility, she's asking them to step down and give her their support.
That's my favorite part.
Yes,
all the men step down for
and
me.
Give her the support for her to go for that seat.
Miriam Onuoha. Just step down and no more, no less. Don't even contest it anymore.
Just bring that energy. Support me. Send me. Let me
back
represent
me up with all of the energy, and I'll represent.
Stand by for the news brief. I will quickly get to her when we return. There's more conversation of things happening in Nigeria. I will be bringing you more major stories and details from the front pages of our national dailies. To stay with us.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more on 2733 Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigeria Police Force, which shall be administered.
The scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My Lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My Lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my Lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court,
Is
my
this
Lord.
an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my Lord. These cases are in court, my Lord. I'm just reminding your Lordship.
My Lord, sorry, my Lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, PM to 6 p.m. for Legally Speaking.
As of government, Secretary General, distinguished delegates, government, Secretary General, distinguished delegates.
This was the leader of Nigeria for Spectrum TV to improve
A very good morning to you and welcome to your morning news brief on Spectrum, live from Uyo. I am Mary Joseph. Begin this morning with the reports that the President of Turkey, Tayyip Erdogan, has congratulated Nigeria's President-elect Asiwaju Bola on the occasion of his emergence as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He believes that Nigeria, under his leadership, will continue its course to a prosperous future. Away from that, the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency sensitization workshop with security agencies in the state, and it was organized in collaboration with the Cross River State Emergency Management Agency. We move now to health, where an umbrella body of Nigerian medical doctors and dentists practicing outside the country, the Diaspora Medical Associations, has petitioned the nations to practice. The DMA said the Medical and Dental Practitioners Act Amendment Bill, sponsored by Genai Johnson, which passed second reading at the House of Representatives last week, was counterproductive and would not achieve its intended goal of addressing brain drain in the country. Back here, the International Air Transport Association, ITA, has formally presented Ibom Air with its operational safety audit certificate. A statement by the Group Manager, Marketing and Communications, Ibom Airlines Limited, Anyekan Esienete, said the certificate was received by the Ibom Airlines Limited management team, led by the CEO, Mfon Udom, at the Ibom Air headquarters in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State, for ITA represented security West and Central Africa. We head now to the foreign scene, where the World Bank has announced its pledge of a grant of $200 million towards repairing Ukraine's energy infrastructure, as officials from the war-torn country met with financial institutions leaders in Washington. The funds were provided by the Ukraine Relief, Recovery, Reconstruction and Reform Trust Fund, with a goal of up to $300 million in addition funding from partners as the project expands its scope, the bank said. We head now to sports, where Karim Benzema and Marco Asensio struck for Real Madrid as they dominated 10 to a comfortable win against Frank Lampard's side, who had Ben Chilwell sent off in the second half for pulling down Rodrigo goals as he ran through on goal. We'll have details of these stories and more in our news of 12. I am Mary Joseph. Let's head back to Horizon Channel, where we have Janice and Uyai on standby. Do have a wonderful morning.
As of government, Secretary General, distinguished delegates.
This was the
Many thanks for still being there. Rise and Shine Daily. We just came off the news brief desk where we had Mary Joseph give us some global updates of some of the things happening in the country and around the world, of reps to be precise, where we had Miriam Onoha representing Okigwe in Imo State federal constituency, that one of the federal constituencies in Imo State, saying that the men should actually step down and give her the opportunity to become the next female speaker, and actually accepts that she becomes the next speaker of the House of Representatives. But beyond that, I think that capacity is what a lot of Nigerians are looking for. Like we always say, we want someone that is the plug and the word, someone that is competent, someone that has the capacity, somebody that knows the job and can actually deliver on the job. That is what Nigerians are seeking for at this moment. So it doesn't really matter whether it's a woman or it's a man. We just need someone that is able to get the job done. So right about now, we'll look at the front pages of our national dailies. But before we do that, actually, a quick stop in Lagos to find out what exactly is happening. There seems to be more like we're beginning to hear news of we had an incident in Lagos State, and it's quite pathetic, where we saw that a 7-story building collapsed in the Banana Island of Lagos State. Of course, the building was under construction and it collapsed yesterday evening. Report has it that some workers are currently trapped under the rubbles. Now, the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, in Lagos State have under construction that collapsed on Wednesday on First Avenue in the Banana Island area of Ikoyi, Lagos State. Now, as of the time of the report that we just had, emergency responders with stumps saying full rescue operations were said to be searching for the whereabouts of a victim that had been trapped beneath the rubbles of the collapsed building. But here we have it. We are serious concerns here. Over the years, we've seen a lot of these kinds of incidences, and one would also think that lessons have been learned, and the right things being done at the right time. We know how the topography of lots of water, locks and all of that, and how do these people come up with these kinds of building? Do they go through the normal procedures, the acceptable normal procedures, or do they cut corners? These are some of the questions that have been asked at different times, where we get to see these kinds of very pathetic situations in the country. And here we are again, having a 7-story building collapse under its weight, and pathetic country in Turkey and Syria, where you had thousands and thousands of people lose their lives and all of that. And of course, that was a natural disaster happening in Turkey and Syria, but it's not a natural disaster happening here in Nigeria, which means that some of those things are totally avoidable, but it wasn't avoided. More like people did not have to the laid down rules and regulations before putting up this kinds of structure and all of that. It's really pathetic. I really wish that whether the building wanted to collapse, it would have just collapsed on its own.
Yeah, from working in that particular facility, and it's usually a problem because one would think the Banana Island is a very highbrow area, in Lagos State, and you would expect that once construction works are going on, the engineering society and all the people involved in the construction would actually adhere, because sometimes they will tell you, oh, there is a problem with the ground you're building upon, there's problem with your coaching and everything, but then people still go ahead. Well, as of now, the Lagos State says they continue to look into rescue operations to get more people out of the rubble, but as we saw in that particular video, the collapse must have been the way that we can call ourselves to order in terms of how we go about these things. And I don't know, again, when we are looking at having a lot of these high-rising buildings, you're talking 7 stories, 10 stories, it's a lot of, if a 7-story building went down, it will go down with a lot of things and a lot of people. But it's such a sorry situation in Lagos State. But we know that Lagos State is one location in the country that is apt to respond to situations, so we do hope that the perpetrators of this will be brought to book. Of course, questions will be hurt in the process. But then we'll just quickly move ahead to our daily spotlight. Let's look at the front pages of our national dailies, what is happening in Nigeria. I think we'll just move straight up and take the Nigerian Tribune first. Looking at the front page of the Nigerian Tribune this morning, the very big story there crossed over. This is great conversation. Of course, narrates how he was harassed at Heathrow Airport. We also have here APC adopt direct primary for Kogi governorship. Says as courts nullifies delegate list. Okay, I think that is a real good move. Remember that this whole delegate thing brought a lot of problems in the just concluded cycle of election. So we also see here APC will zone 10th NAS leadership after Ramadan, Senate spokesman. We also have here NANS threatens civil disobedience to high fees and hardship. Okay, we also have here Anyanwu Diri emerged PDP governorship candidates in Imo and Bayelsa. My son, not a Yahoo boy. Mother of man killed by mob in Ondo cries out. So pathetic. Your assembly gives Makinde approval to deduct 5% for stamp duties recovery. Okay, we have the story here. Tragedy, a 7-story building collapses in Benin. Exactly. Those are all the stories that we have on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune.
Okay, let's go now to our very next story, which is coming from the Daily Sun. The Daily Sun says, the big story here says 25% FCT votes not needed, transmission and others. Moving on, new NAS leadership, APC to unveil zoning formula. That story can be found on page 8. Labour Party crisis, state chairman stop a Papa-led National Working Committee from entering party's headquarters. Page 5 is where you get that story from. We also have Obi raises the alarm over impersonation, framing plot in UK. You can get details of that story on page 6. And FEC approves 6 billion naira for third mainland bridge maintained, as well. You can get details of that story from, and that's all we have on Daily Sun this morning.
Moving on from Daily Sun, we'll take the Punch newspaper. Meet others in 7 years. Importers ordered agric animal products, others from Asian, EU, African countries. We also see here federal government to repay World Bank $800 million loan for 25 years. We also have here doctors in diaspora petition National Assembly over anti-migration bill. Senate 7-story building collapse. Lagos alleges structure lacks permit. Atiku dismisses exile plan, slams protesters. Police arrest 2 over OAU students' death. Lagos Ibadan stadiums owe 950 million electricity bills, says Dari.
The big story here says Obi lacks right to contest my victory, says Tinubu as he tells tribunal. And we have that the writer says Shatima validly nominacy is saying that Atiku PDP can't query president-elect's qualification. Okay, let's move forward now. And still on presidential poll, it says presidential polls most credible high, say Kiyamo, and orders. Observers report rates Beavers high, says Kiyamo and others. Many fear trapped under collapsed Lagos. He was detained in London by aid. Now that story is causing a lot of controversies in the country. Of course, we've seen the APC government also try to cash in on that. Moving forward, G5 governors mini convention plan deepens PDP crisis. Okay, so much story that the hard facts. Okay, so maybe there's something on the National Stadium of Surulere, and hard facts are coming out on that particular one. That
story there says Tinubu U.S. court order of 460,000 joins INEC, urges panel to dismiss Atiku PDP's petitions. President-elect's media team meets foreign press in U.S. breach of immigration law. That story can be found on page 42. We also have here Labour Party impersonated. We also have here again IMF urges Nigeria to increase tax, reduce borrowing, canvasses targeted subsidies for health order. We also have here, of course, a pictorial story there, spring meetings of the IMF and World Bank Group in DC. Those are all the stories that we have on the front page of this day newspaper.
Okay, so that's all we have as major stories on the front pages of our national dailies. But we'll just take a very short breather, and when we come back, of course, we open up the phone.
Of course, it still rises at spectrumtv.ng. But of course, we were just looking at the front pages of the national daily stories that are making the rounds in Nigeria, and a lot of things stand out. And I think the most important, I think for tribunals, other people are looking at all the monetary troubles that we have, and the presidential candidate
of Labour
Party seems to be taking some chunk of the information for this morning.
Yeah, definitely. I like the fact that you know, there are just FCT votes. That issue seems to, you know, be generating a lot of controversies. Now we've had some legal luminaries, you know, that have been able, or that have jumped into the matter to try to like analyze the situation for Nigerians. That's something I saw somewhere that is very, very instructive and very, very informative as well. I hope that I can get through to that. But while we are doing that, while I'm trying to get that information, where some lawyers are actually interpreting you know, presidential candidates to be able to win the elections and all of that, and some you know, legal pundits are also of the opinion that, you know, the Federal Capital Territory, there's another section of the Constitution that was quoted in that regard, you know, should be taken as one of the states, you know, in Nigeria, which makes it the 37th state in the country, and it should not, you know, be used as a measure to say that, okay, because the incoming president or the announced president did not win that particular federal capital territory. It's not 2B of the Nigerian constitution states categorically, it's unambiguous. The statement is very clear to that regard, that look, you have to win 2/3 of the 36 states of the federal capital of the country and the federal capital territory before you can assume that position as the president. And if that is not done, which clearly shows that
the issue here again will be, sometimes we'll go and look for parts of the constitutions, quote and unquote, that are hidden, and try to explain, negotiate which ones did we hear the most. When in all of the seasons of elections that we've had, what has been the guideline, which one has been used? There's been a push on a very large scale to make the FCT a state and not just an adjourning addendum of FCT as a state. So even if you have it in a reclusive part of the constitution, as long as it's not what they 34, that everyone has known that, okay, before a president is announced as the winner, he has to win
of the states, in the country, and 25%
in the FCT. So why are we suddenly trying to, the interpreters of our law that would tell us where we stand, to the interpretations that the judiciary give to these laws that they themselves had looked into and accented to? I think that's where we stand with regards to that.
For a presidential candidate to win 25% of the FCT, and this decision shall apply to the federal capital territory FCT as if it's the argument, but just like you have said, I think we also have one, and then there's always another one that is more like a leeway. 299 subsection 1 counters section 134 subsection people, or more than the rest of Nigerians, to actually about the conspiracy. Is it conspiracy now? The Labour Party hosting, or rather an impersonator of Peter Obi. I think you read that story.
Since yesterday, Obi's impersonator may implicate him, says Labour Party. Of course, they narrate how Labour Party presidential candidate and several controversial conversations are coming out of these. We even had the vice presidential candidate Peter Obi should leave the country. So it's more like there has been a conspiration. There's been a conspiracy. Conspiracy country, and maybe just to go into the face of this. So it's more like the delay that he put into not leaving the country impeded the but it's more like the Labour Party are still saying they have a problem with this because that particular activity may implicate Peter Obi, but Nigeria with his hands clean every time. He keeps coming up with his hands clean. So it's more like some persons in the system, whether they are followers or or whatnot, seem to there's a harder game to find dirt on the man Peter Obi.
The All Progressives Congress will cash in on, and expecting less now. Of course, we see that the Director New Media Subcommittee of the All Progressives Congress APC Presidential Campaign Council, Femi Fani Kayode, has mocked the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, over his encounter with immigration officers at the Heathrow Airport in the United Kingdom. Of course, he took by the British authority. I saw this coming, actually. We cannot say that we'll have this kind of conversation. Of course, let's not also forget
riding on it.
Yeah, let's not also forget that this didn't happen yesterday. It happened, during the Easter break and all of that. But it is the Labour Party that have brought this to fore. And we see that, the arrested in court. So it's more like any little thing that comes to limelight now should be used against, those that are opposing the results of the presidential candidate. But I think we'll just leave it at that. We're hoping that we'll have Nigerians call in and share their opinion with us this morning. But let's just take a the major security challenges we've been facing in northern Nigeria. Recently, there's been a high spate of killings across Kaduna, Katsina, and most states in northern Nigeria. We want to know the inside stories of some of the happenings in northern Nigeria. So do stay with us and move no muscle. We'll be right back.
Business exists. Only tune that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12.
The Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police.
Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My Lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Evidence in our
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court,
Is
my lord.
this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding you, lord.
As we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria, legally speaking. Join us every Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. for Legally Speaking.
City of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. It's time to take our focus into some very strong conversation of things happening. In the last couple of weeks, we've continued to hear of kidnappings and different things happening in the north. Who has boasted very loudly of his accomplishments with regard to the security constraint that Nigeria has experienced over the years. But insecurity seems to continue to persist in the northeast and some parts, other parts of the north. In behalf joining us this morning, Dr. Yahuza Getso, who himself is a security expert and analyst, joining us virtually this morning. Good morning, Dr. Getso. Good to have you on the show.
Listeners and viewers.
Okay, how are you this morning, and how is Kano?
Well, the local governments were inconclusive, were declared.
All right. So this morning our conversation is primarily tagged the inside story. What exactly is happening in the northeast and some parts of the north central? There has been tidbits of news here and there about insecurity related issues, abductions still going on. So inside the north, what exactly is the security situation at this time?
Well, I think the focus should be the northwest and the north central, not really the northeast. The northeast, where the Boko Haram and where the military keep claiming that they were able to have 8,000 or more repentance of the Boko Haram. And as far as I'm concerned, as professional and as experts, that they were able to have 8,000 repentance of the Boko Haram, then the end of Boko Haram could have been declared by now. Why? Because you assume that this 8,000 represent 10 people in that regard. So when you multiply the total number of 10 people times 8,000, you realize that it's almost close to the population of the Borno state itself. These are all of the Boko Haram members. Who are the leaders? Where are they? Who is supplying them, providing them with the food, health, and other social needs? So that could have given the military and the security agencies a very easy way to deal with Boko Haram and bring an end to it. But because their proclamation is just a deceit, so as far as I'm concerned, the Boko Haram is still there in the northeastern part of the country, where is their main hope. Coming now to the northwestern part of the country, I keep asking many questions. Before the election, the presidential election, the presidents of the candidates, the presidential candidates of local governments and political polling units and the states where the issues of banditry, kidnappings, and other criminalities aligned. When the masses were suffering from kidnapping for ransom by these criminals in the northwestern part of the country and part of the north central, that is Niger, Kogi, Nasarawa, Plateau, and Benue, as well as Niger, the State Assembly, contenders of the gubernatorial election, contenders, candidates who were contested for government. That this is a connivance between elites, especially the political elites and the criminals, that they provided them with arms and ammunition to kill the ordinaries.
Okay, so
that they can pave
Dr.
a way for them.
Getsu,
Yes.
Dr. Getsu, sir, would we say that the killings in to the elite Nigerians? But another question I would like to ask, because you brought us to that point of the politics and the elections that recently just concluded. We didn't see a lot of killings during that period. It seems there was relative peace during the election period. Can you just put us in perspective? Elections, we saw that it was relatively peaceful.
That is exactly to tell you that the fight is against the commoners. What happens in Kaduna and what happened in Zamfara recently, kidnapping more than 100 people at one of the polling units, political watch, and other activities that has been happening in other areas of Niger and alike. It's clearly a clear indicator that government must have hand in what has been happening against the masses. Because as far as I'm concerned, government plotted another government against the masses because the masses have not been given the right and privileges to conduct election to elect who they want. They have distributed at most 1,000 naira, while he was pushed to a pervasive poverty. So why government didn't make effort to provide the same peace during the last 8 years? Only the peace was provided during pre-election, during election, and after election immediately, because it's clearly spelled out the lack of sincerity and honesty from the side of the government, or rather, probably the security agencies are conniving with the criminals. So during the pre-election and during election, there is a relative, you can say that there is 98% peace in almost all the locations where kidnapping, whoever whosoever may have been there. So it is sad and unfortunate. It is really disheartening, disappointing, and discouraging. And it is really spelled out and clearly exposed the government inability to deal with the situation decisively in the last 8 years. And only we have been agitating and making a clarion call for government to recruit additional personnel so that they can
more personnel into the Nigerian army or military that will solve the problem. Now you have made Nigerians to understand that the fight or the agitations of some of these militia groups that you have mentioned is not even against the government. It is against the common man. And the question will arise, what is it about the common man that the militia groups are going after?
If it is really against the common man, who has the constitutional mandate to protect the common man? Is it not the government? Have the government even to deal with the common man for no reason rather than for them to have a way of getting what they want? For the criminals to earn more money to starve common man by collecting money for ransom, and for the government to continue to enjoy the space.
Now I'm asking, you have made mention of the fact that, look, government should recruit more people into the Nigerian military. Will that solve the problem that we are facing in northern Nigeria as we speak? Issues around the country.
Not some of these issues, all of the issues.
Okay.
Constitutionally.
Okay. Should, as a matter of urgency, recruit more personnel into the military.
The personnel we have is not up to 28% to 30% at maximum. Buhari-led administration made the capacity of the Nigerian security agencies facing the challenges of the security at more than 53%. But it has downsized because of its weakness and inability to do the needful, provide the right arms and ammunition for the guys to do their work. It downsized the number of the capacity of the security agencies to almost trying to do the right thing. Many of the personnel have been killed by the insurgents, by the Boko Haram, by the bandits, by the ISWAP, by the Ansaru, and what have you, but not taken its constitutional mandate, constitutional responsibility very well. They have not sit to the. It's very clear that the government is very irresponsible.
Okay, so another question, sorry, another question I would like us to talk about, or EC I would like us to talk about, is what is happening in Zango Kataf local government area that is in being, attacked. What is it about Zango Kataf
Well, the issue
community?
of Zongwan Kataf is a combined triangle issues. One, there is religion, politics, and the community. So there has been a communal clashes since Babangida administration, or rather even before Babangida, even during Shagari and even Gawon, even between the ethnic people that have been living in a relative peace. So elites started using that as an opportunity for them to kind of gain a base after they have wasted civil service without bringing any return to their community. So now, as they resign from their services, they come back, they want to have a relevance, they want to have a base, they want to have members, and then brainwash them and provided them with arms to attack the Hausa and Fulani who have been living in peace for donkey years with them. So that created and initiated a tribal and state, some part of Kano State, some part of Kaduna State and some part of Plateau State, which have a great, have been playing a great role in terms of names will never be heard or have not even heard because they have not done anything to their communities. So the only way to be heard and to be kind of back to the history that Kaduna southern Kaduna had been living in an absolute peace in the years of 1920s, 1930s, 1940s, 1950s, 1960s, until the early 1970s, those elites, their community, so they initiated a kind of political chaos that led and that is leading to the killings of innocent in those areas and what have you. So it is really a triangular Zamani, Major General Zamani Lekot and other brigadiers and colonels and those other retired federal civil servants that were found by Babangida administration and Abacha administration. If they could have been dealt with, they could have been killed. That could have served as a deterrent and
worthy of note is that just before the election, during the election, some parts of the north central, the northwest seemed to have been experiencing what looked like peace. But once the elections were done and dusted, February 25th and the 18th of March, it seems we began to experience an uprising of, these killings and this abduction while insecurity is happening in the north at this time. But we are looking at it. What is the impact of that relative peace that we just experienced in the north on the election? And now that the uprisings are coming up again, is the fact that pretty much President Muhammadu Buhari is done. There's really no salvation he can bring to this security. We need to begin to look into the next administration and foist, some solutions, suggestion.
Well, the impact of the uprise, one, we have to look at it. Masses need to sit to their responsible to themselves and talk to themselves that it's a political pillar being used, being stepped in, and being also utilized by the elites, by political elites, taking advantage of this insurgency against one another. It means it is very clear that there are political elites who are against Erufai, who are against Tambuwal, who are against Masari, who are against kind of serving as a stooge, so that they can expose the weaknesses and lapses of those administration. But I want to tell you that more than 98 of those elites are not who are drivers, the main drivers and the clots and the brake fluids of all the political space of all locations where all these activities are happening. More than 98% of them are not really living there, but they are not living there with their families. Their families are enjoying themselves in Kaduna, Lagos, Kano, and other places where they have multi-millions or multi. So if that is really happening, and the intel is, does that mean that our intelligence have not been doing their work? Does that mean that the intelligence reports have not been provided for who and who is involved? Does that mean that Buhari administration refused intentionally to punish those political fillers, those political stooge, those political to come in with sincerity and honesty for governance.
Okay,
That is
so
one. Secondly, they must be ready to fight corruption, which Buhari administration deceived Nigerians and deceived the ordinary people that they were fighting corruption. They provide additional personnel, massive recruitment, sincere and honest recruitment, not recruitment where you bring the son of Mr. A, the junior brother of Mr. B.
Do you think we have Nigerians that are willing?
Recruit 80 people per polling unit. Count the total number of polling units that we have. If you go now and declare that you want to recruit 80 per polling unit, if in a political ward, you have 10 polling units, 80 times, 8,000 times, assume out of 773 local government we have, recruit 8,000 times, multiply by 500 local government out of the 773. Tell me the total number of personnel that you have decisively. We have so many unemployed youth, those who NCE graduate, diploma graduate, degree graduate, including masters who are willing, who are ready.
Okay. So what I'd usually like to ask, what part can the common Nigerians play to defend themselves or take themselves out of the victim position that we find in the midst of all of these insecurity and insurgency? Is there something the common man can do?
The only thing they can do ahead of the election in the 2027, because masses and the common man have felt for their preparation for the 2023. So they have been their mandate have been stolen. So there is nothing they could do. The illegal one is probably if the youth can remobilize themselves and show themselves and sit on the streets and tell the government that we are not ready to go back home until you call for a riot. No, I'm not saying that. But at least to have even sitting on the streets to ask the government to do the needful and stop everything in the country. That's probably the illegal one. I'm not calling for any riot or any crisis. But if the government is not careful, the ends. I'm not making a call for anybody to come out to the streets and riot or whatever.
Okay, so Dr. Getzel, because of time,
masses have been, their mandate have been stolen by elites.
Very quickly now, sir. I think just like we had said, it goes beyond, the Buhari administration right now, because we have a couple of days for it to wrap up its 8-year administration. But another very important thing I want us to look at as we wrap up, the thing that you're contradicting yourself, and we are also going to be running around circles when you say you prefer some of the solutions, because you have also said that the politicians are using the insurgents, thriving on that. So
remember,
what are we using the solutions for?
I'm not contradicting myself.
Okay.
I said the government should come in with sincerity and purpose. So if at all there is sincerity and purpose, whosoever, nobody is voted against the masses, and it is the facilitation, the process by the politicians, by the political elites. Bola Ahmed Tinubu, if he came in with sincerity and purpose, honesty, because that's the key. If he is sincere, honest, and he has a purpose of what he really wants to achieve, a group of elites who have been harboring against the masses.
All right. I think we'll just end it there.
In population and 10% political elites.
All right, so I think we'll end it there in terms of just as a quick wrap up, honesty and integrity. Dr. Yahuza Getso, security expert. Thank you so much for your time with us this morning. It's always a great pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye. Enjoy the rest of your day. Great conversation there.
Very great conversations, inside stories of some of the things happening in, northern Nigeria. Some
also, especially when you're saying the people are used as the middle as bait,
that's pathetic.
For different people in the mix. It's such a big thing. And I mean, like he said, it sounds like at this point, even the citizens, their hands are tied. There's nothing we can do. He said, recoup yourself and prepare for 2027. And like you can catch up on that conversation is if you're following us across all social media platforms. Now you can find all that at spectrumtv.ng. Sometimes you want to get back to this conversation so that you can ask yourself the why. And it was a great delight to do this today.
I just hear the breath of relief out of all of the stories, but we'll definitely see you again tomorrow for another edition of Rise.